like to call this meeting to order. Good evening and welcome to the regular November board meeting of the Vestavia Hills Board of Education. Our first order of business is to approve the amended agenda, which is displayed on the screen. Do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second? Second. All right, any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Our next order of business is to approve the minutes of the October 25th meeting that have been distributed. Do I hear a motion to approve? So moved. And second?
Second.
Is there any discussion or corrections to the minutes? All right, all in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. I'll now turn the meeting over to Dr. Mason to present our delegations and recognitions.
Pleased to have some students from Vestavia Hills High School with us tonight to share some, I think, really important and positive things that they're doing to impact their fellow students and impact the community. So I'm glad to welcome some students who are from the Help the Hills Coalition. I'll encourage you just to introduce yourselves to the audience and share what you're doing with us.
Hey, my name is Maggie Mintz, and this is William Tapscott, and we're seniors at the high school, and we're a part of the new Help the Hills student team, and we just wanted to thank y'all for having us here today.
So for those of you who may not know, Help the Hills is a community coalition made up of representatives from the community, different organizations who all have the same goal: to reduce underage use and abuse of drugs and alcohol in Vestavia Hills. So one of the groups of people that are represented on the coalition are the students. And we have a new organization this year called the Help the Hills Student Team. And this team was created under the big umbrella of youth leadership at the high school. And so there are 36 juniors and seniors on this team that are committed to living drug and alcohol free. And we were selected last spring and have been working since then to get organized and make a plan of action. So collectively, we are involved in every single aspect of the school, so from sports and band and debate and math teams, anything like that, we have somebody on the team to represent that. And one of the things we do is work and represent the students at events that are either organized by Help the Hills, the coalition, or other groups that might need us. So we were present at the community forum on coping with stress, as well as the community night out, and the fifth quarter event that was for students and sponsored by the coalition.
The main focus this year of our organization is to talk to the 8th grade students at Constitutes in Liberty Park and really reach out to them and help them prepare better for high school next year and form relationships with them so that they can be ready as they deal with the pressure and stress of coming into high school. The first thing that we did is we hosted the One Rebel 8th grade party in September, and we had over 300 8th graders attend, and it was really a fun night, and they had a great time. And our next step is to visit Liberty Park and Constitutes 8th grade students 5 times throughout this year. So the first time we met them last week, we just introduced ourselves, and we plan to go back in January, February, March, and April, each school one day, and talk to them about friendships and academics and activities, and they can ask us questions about high school. And then at our last talk, we just wanted to talk to them about drugs and alcohol and why we make the decisions that we make involving drugs and alcohol, because the purpose of our organization is to help to grow the number of people who abstain from the use of drugs and alcohol in high school. And so we just hope that that'll be a time for them to ask questions and get more information about high school, but also for us to be an example for them. And this is who we are, and this is what we do. And we thank you all for having us here today, and we can't wait to see what our organization does in the future.
Thank you all for being with us, and thank you for what you're doing. I was just thinking at the end there, so many organizations would be so much better off if they could do what you just said. This is who we are, and this is what we do. And it's very clear that you have a clear sense of mission for what you're doing. I just think that's terrific, and I appreciate you all doing that. Any board members have any comments or questions for us?
Good job. Appreciate you. That takes a lot of courage to stand up and do that, so we appreciate it.
Yeah, the more we hear about what you do, the more we just appreciate everything. Y'all do a great job. And if you want to sneak out of the meeting now, we will certainly encourage you to do that or watch Miss Fury. Oh, yes.
Vestavia Hills schools had a great year last month. We had 2 teachers who were recognized as the exemplars for their subject area in the state of Alabama. So we're very excited to recognize them tonight. First of all, Dr. Timory Fisk was named Secondary Art Teacher of the Year in October by the Alabama Art Education Association. Timory's been an art teacher at Vestavia Hills High School for the past 13 years. And I'd like to ask her to come forward and let us congratulate and recognize her. You're not through yet. Come on back. I want to thank you for representing our school system so well, and more importantly than that, I'm sure the positive impact that you have on your students every day. And just as a small recognition for your accomplishment, I have this for you. So, congratulations. Also, Angela Hollis was named Gifted Specialist of the Year in October of the Alabama Association for Gifted Children. Angela has been the Gifted Specialist at Vestavia Hills Elementary East for the past 5 years. So, Angela, would you please come forward and let us recognize you? Congratulations, and thank you also for all you do for your students. Congratulations. We also want to recognize 2 of our teachers who will be representing our system in the State Teacher of the Year recognition program this year. The Elementary Teacher of the Year representing Vestavia this year is Catherine Bentley. Catherine is a 3rd grade teacher at Vestavia Hills Elementary East and has been in the Vestavia system since 1999. Catherine, would you stand and let us congratulate you and recognize you? At the state level, come back and I'll give you a coffee cup. Thank you.
I got a coffee cup.
The Secondary Teacher of the Year for Vestavia this year is Laura Luder. Laura is a German teacher at Vestavia Hills High School and has been in the Vestavia system since 2012. And I'm sure her teachers learned more German with her than I learned in a year in college. Otherwise, she certainly would not have gotten this award. So, Laura, please come forward and let us congratulate you. This time I'd like to ask our Director of Student Services, Candace Manningham, to come forward and share with us data from the recent SIR report and also the PRIDE survey.
Which did you choose? Sir. Y'all just saying now I've got about 72 slides. Just kidding. Actually, I do have 72 slides, but somebody requested the Cliff Notes, and these will be posted on our website as they are every year. So if you want to go back and really delve into the stats, you're more than welcome to. We're going to start with the SIR report, which is our student incident report, and that is the report that our administrators give with incidents that occur in their schools, whether it be fighting, drug and alcohol possession, things of that nature. So by district, yeah, okay, I'm kind of over there. So we stay fairly consistent. You'll see 14, 15, 15, 16, 16, 17. We are very consistent every year in our stats. I think one area that we're looking at is probably the harassment. That has, the last 3 years has gone up. We look for those trends so we can try to find areas of need. But if you will look across there, we may go up 1 year, we may go down 1 year, but overall, we have the same numbers. Now, if you're visual, I've included these graphs. Okay. No, we're not going to discuss them today, but they do match what we just looked at. Okay, infractions by school. Here's Liberty Park Middle School. Again, pretty consistent every year. Some years we go up a little bit on something, some years we go down, but our numbers are not alarming in any of these areas. It's been very consistent. This is a short one, y'all. It's Middle School. Again, it's a larger school, so we expect our numbers to be more in each area, but again, fairly consistent. A little bit of a trend in fighting, a little bit of a trend in the harassment. Overall, the numbers are pretty much the same. The high school, and again, older kids, larger group of students, so of course we expect these numbers to also be a little bit higher in certain areas. One thing that's standing out again is maybe some of our harassment numbers are still low, 236 in a school population of 2,000. But we've seen that small, slight trend in all 3 schools. We look at the consequences. These also fall right in line with what we expect. As our numbers grow larger, our placements are going to get a little larger. But we try to focus as much as we can on things like in-school supervision. As much as possible, we don't want our students missing school, missing class. Again, consistent with the rise in the ISS. By school, Liberty Park, again, we're expecting that rise in the numbers a little bit because of our population. But we use ISS. That's where we want to try to keep our kids. Anytime we can, we need to try to keep them in school. Y'all detect the theme here? Larger school, a little bit larger numbers, everything consistent. So here we are at the ZITs. More larger numbers, low on out-of-school suspension, low on alternative schools, placements, and ISS is rising. And again, I can say the same thing for the high school. Larger group of students, and our trend is ISS all the way through. That's the easy one, because we're lucky to be in Vestavia, where 99.9% of our kids make good decisions every day, and we have a lot of support in place to help any kids that are struggling. Any questions about CERT?
The harassment is something that jumped out at me when I looked at the report the other night. What constitutes harassment? Is it a child going to a principal or somebody and reporting they've been harassed, and then it's up to an adult to determine if that's the case? How do we measure that?
And it might look a little bit different in every situation, but in general, you have a student report or a student reports on a friend's behalf, and then administrators will investigate the situation and determine if the harassment has occurred that rises to the level of a SIR incident. But it's going to, every situation is a little bit different. Okay? Now, when you look at bullying is a little bit different because bullying is a continuous pattern of harassment. They go hand in hand sometimes they don't. But there's an investigation because we need to make sure we protect all students, and we want to make sure that it rises to that level. Tyler, Tanya, some of the other principals, is there anything y'all would like to add to that part?
There's a class 1 that's for minor intimidation harassment. So, but again, it kind of depends on the repetitive nature, if there is one, and each incident is investigated.
Okay. So these numbers reflect an investigation and a full report.
Correct.
Thank you.
Any other questions? We'll move on to the PRIDE survey. For those of you who may not be familiar with the PRIDE survey, it is a survey that we give every year to students in grades 6 through 12. And it measures student behavior, student attitudes toward drug and alcohol use. Now, with any survey, we know that there may be some dishonesty in some of the answers. The PRIDE report actually has a mechanism to void any survey that there is a pattern that doesn't match the questions. Okay, there's some questions in the PRIDE survey that contain like nonsense words and like nonsense drugs, things that don't exist. So there's a way they measure that. So when we look at Pride Survey, I say every year, we look at trends, okay? We cannot look at those numbers and say, absolutely, when we have 4% saying that they're using prescription drugs on a daily basis, that we know there's 4%. We have to look at the trends, okay? We focus on several areas. One is 30-day use. This question is percentage. How many percentage of those students who took the survey say that they used a particular substance within the last 30 days? So it's a yes or no question. Some of these charts are a little deceptive because they may look high, but when you see, you're only looking at 5, 10, okay? So don't let those scare you. You do see that, again, we are fairly consistent. We go up a little bit, we go down a little bit. The one thing that we've been watching the last couple of years is that marijuana. Okay? We're only talking about like maybe a 1 percentage point each year, but we're climbing. And I think we can all probably make inferences as to why that may or may not be the case. When you look at just the middle schools, the trend again is only about 1 percentage point, but middle school, our alcohol is trending up.
The scale is different for middle school than for high school.
Yes, you have to pay, when you go online and look at this, really pay attention because the scale is adjusting to the numbers. Okay, so really pay attention to that when you decide to do it. Okay, this is actually broken down by grade, and it's broken down cigarettes, alcohol, marijuana, prescription drugs. Again, we stay fairly low on things and kind of up and down on some things. We expect as the kids get older, our numbers get higher, right? We expect our kids as they get older that sometimes there may be some experimentation, that access is easier. This graph is not unusual. Where are our two trends? Our two trends are alcohol and marijuana. Okay? The most interesting part to look at is it almost doubles between 10th and 11th grade on both of those areas.
Is vaping included in cigarettes?
It's not yet. They are going to add e-cigs. They did a little bit of that last year. The Pride Survey will actually change again in 1 more year, and I think that's going to be a huge topic of conversation. "30-day use of cigarettes." There's nothing that stands out. Okay. It looks like there may be some jumps, but remember when you look at the graph, you're talking in some areas like a 0.8%. Past 30-day use in alcohol. One thing that I want to pay attention to as we move through our drug prevention program in the middle school is we know, again, remember things are going to go up as kids get older. But that 8th grade in alcohol, when we went from 3% to 8.7%, so we're going to really be keeping an eye on that, and with the Healthy Hill student team, really getting in that 8th grade with our prevention program that we are implementing in the middle schools. So we've got to really watch that. Marijuana, same thing. 11th and 12th grade, we're jumping a little bit. We expect to jump a little bit. Marijuana is going to be an issue as they continue to legalize that. Prescription drugs, this is a hard one. We know that we have some kids that have fallen victim to prescription drugs that have led to some other more dangerous opioids. Prescription drugs is a hard question because when you ask a 7th grader, in the past 30 days have you taken prescription drugs? Well, they may have because they had a root canal. Okay, so this is a little bit difficult, but again, there's nothing that is really just, oh my goodness, we need to look at this. Okay, not that we're not denying that we've had some issues. Okay, here we are compared to the national summary. Last year we were below the national summary in every category, every single category. And again, for alcohol, we still are, okay? We're a little close in that 8th grade, because remember how those other 8th grade stats look. We're a little close there. Marijuana, we jumped a little bit. We're now in 8th grade a little bit above the national average. These are trends. We need to pay attention to it. We're not going to panic yet. We're talking about a point, not great math, 0.3%. The gap is closing a little bit more in 9th grade. Prescription drugs, again, this is one that I sometimes worry about the validity of it. You can see we moved a little bit higher in 8th grade. And that even makes me question it too. We're getting some outliers in 8th grade this year. Okay, some of this other is almost really what you think and how our data flies, so I'm going to go through it really quick. Perception of risk, it's just what's the student's perception of about how harmful those substances are. Okay, our kids are smart. We're up there. Our kids know that these substances are harmful. Okay, that's 6 through 12, 6 through 8. Remember, adjust the graph for the numbers. And then, of course, when you get to high school, we become a little bit more invincible. So some of those go down, but still we're in good shape. Parent disapproval. Okay, most of our kids will say parents disapprove of use, right? So again, we're all over 90% of our kids think that parents will disapprove of use. Alcohol is our lowest. There it is in middle school, all over 95%. 9 through 12. We've got a little dip in marijuana, although it's still all over 90%. Friends disapproval. Wrong or very wrong, your friend will think if you are using. Numbers still look good. Again, we're seeing that dip in marijuana. About 2% each time. 6 through 8, trending a little bit lower, but we're still at a good average. 9 through 12 has been virtually the same all 3 years. And again, it does say 60%, but remember those kids are older. They think a lot of people do that. So again, so thankful that our student team is out there to spread the word that 99% of our kids are making good decisions. Protective factors, again, the more protective factors a kid has, the more involved they are. We expect the use to go lower. We're right there. Church, synagogue, community activities, made good grades. Team sports, we were trying to watch that last year because team sports, we got a little dip. With the kids who are involved in team sports, the highest was sometimes they used. Well, they didn't report that for us this year. We got 1 year of data. So that's actually 15-16, not 16-17. And then again, taking part in school activities. We kind of had a little bit of that last year too, a little bit of rise in Salem. And then the 2 number 1 reasons kids do not use drugs is because parents talk about the dangers and parents set clear rules. Those are the 2 number 1 factors that prevent drug use with our youth. And you can see that those definitely did. So that one's a little bit longer, a lot more information. Is there any questions about that? They will be online, so study at your convenience. I know you're going to go home and do it tonight.
Thank you, Candace. Just a couple of comments. I think the 2 takeaways that I would hope the community would focus on is first the preventive effect of what parents say to their kids. When your children are teenagers, you may not think they're hearing a single word that you say. And yet I think this data and all of those suggest that's just not the case. They really do listen, they really do care what their parents think, and it makes a difference. So I think the more we can reassure parents of that and encourage them to have those conversations, the better. And then the second statistic that's true, every school system I know of anywhere, is that the substance of choice is alcohol among teenagers. And sometimes we get so concerned about something new that's out there that we're hearing a lot about that we forget that fundamental fact. That is the substance that is abused more often than any other by teenagers pretty much everywhere, including here. And so I think that's, again, just something we have to keep taking a look at, is that that's the one that represents the most danger to young people when they're driving, when they're in social situations. And that's just, I just think we always need to keep our eye on that, as in addition to all the new things that come along, but that one's a constant year in and year out. So appreciate the work that Candace does and Help the Hills and the students. All that's just very, very important, and trying to be sure that these trends are going in the right direction. Just one way to put this in context, I can't do the math in my head, I was an English teacher, but if you take 2,000 students of the high school and multiply it by 180 days, I don't know what that number is, but it's a real big one. So when you start thinking about those student incident reports and you see that something happened 12 times during the school year, if you think about how many student days that number is, I think that puts it in some perspective. Now, if someone's the victim of bullying or harassment, that's serious. I don't care what the number is. But still, I think as we look at those numbers, we kind of have to keep that in mind. And as Candace said, most of our students are making good decisions day in and day out at school. That's important. Next item is financial statement. The board has the financial statements for the month of October.
That's right. The information presented tonight is for October, the first month of the new fiscal year. Currently, we are working on making end-of-the-year audit adjustments, so there will be some changes actually to the September balances that will track forward as we accrue revenues that were due at the end of the year and also accrue payables that we had. So the numbers will fluctuate after we go through and get the final audit report. For October, revenues are 5.8% of budget. Last year they were 8.4%, but the numbers being reflected for last year do reflect those end of the year accruals that are made. And right now it's at least $500,000 I know that will be accrued. Still searching for additional accruals. Expenditures are 9.31% of budget. Last year they were 8.6% of budget. In October, we have made some large budgeted purchases in October, so that skews your numbers when your expenditures don't follow through in a monthly pattern. Example is $124,000 worth of Chromebooks, which we purchased right at the beginning of October. All bank accounts have been reconciled, and that's all I have to report.
Recommend approval of the financial statements.
You have heard the superintendent's recommendation that the board approve the financial statements for October 2017. Do I hear a motion to approve? Second?
Second.
Is there any discussion or questions? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Consent items?
All of the consent items this evening are for overnight or out-of-state trips. I recommend approval of those.
You've heard the superintendent's recommendation that the board approve the out-of-state overnight trips as submitted. Do I hear a motion to approve?
Second.
And second? Second. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
We have a couple of change orders that I'd like to recommend to the board. Both of these change orders represent a reduction in the cost of two construction projects, one being the Elementary West renovations, and the other being the classroom addition and cafeteria renovation at Vestavia Hills Elementary Liberty Park. That's the closeout on that project. So I've told HPM they can bring us more of these where the contract goes down just anytime they would like to. So I recommend approval of these two change orders.
All right, you have heard the superintendent's recommendation that the board approve change order number 1 with Wilford Orman Construction and change order number 1 with Battle Miller Construction Corporation. Are we going to discuss that separately?
I think we can act on both of them.
Oh. All right. As submitted. Do I hear a motion to approve? And second?
Second.
All right, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Next item on the agenda is the 2018-19 and 2019-20 school calendars. I believe Kim Hauser, who's a member of the calendar committee, is going to present those to the board. The calendar committee, you're probably going to go into this, but it is a committee that's made up of both parents and school system staff to take a look at the school calendars and make this recommendation to the board. So, Kim, thanks for being here on behalf of the committee.
Absolutely. And Dr. Mason just said my first talking point is comprised of representatives from all 8 schools, which includes an admin, administrator, a teacher, and a parent, and some district personnel. And so we had at least 25 people. We met twice for over an hour each time and had an email thread going also. And I really felt like everybody that came to the table were really representing their constituents. The parents were talking for the parents. And I've served on this committee in years past, and this was a very congenial group, and no one came with a big agenda and fighting for anything. Alicia and I were pushing for something that didn't push through. I'll tell you that in a minute. But we finally got it after all these years. But anyway, but when you do a school calendar, it sounds like, okay, let's just go forth and make a calendar. But there's a lot of parameters to consider. And historically, one thing is we get out before Memorial Day, and that's just something that Best State has always done. People enroll from out of state, and they'll say, oh, we don't go to the 15th of June. And so if you start there and move back, teachers have to attend 187 school days. Students are 180. And Labor Day and Veterans Day are a have to. So you have to factor all that in. You have to factor, we want to finish exams before Christmas holidays. So you have 2 semesters, and when you put everything together, there's not as much wiggle room as you think. One thing that's a little bit different than some of our sister schools for next year is some school systems are getting out on the 14th in December for the holidays. Our committee was pretty much unanimous in that we would rather go longer in December and have a little bit, not have to come back on January the 2nd. So that was considered and talked about. We have a PD day that's embedded in the 2nd semester. We have some upfront PD days before kids come to school. But as a district, we value that, and we wanted to reflect that in the calendar. We do it, we intersperse it throughout the school year, but we wanted to have a day set aside for that. The only other thing that is really kind of different is there is a job embedded. One thing I wanted to mention is you can take a chunk of days. If we wanted to start a week later, we could, but our teachers and parents and administrators like that there's interspersed days like President's Day, Martin Luther King Day, Inclement Weather Day, the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. So that's 4 days right there that almost makes a school week if you didn't take those days. But they all were very unanimous, I would say, Chamber would you say, in that we like little breaks. And I can attest to that, I think most people in the room. Monday was a happier day because everybody had Friday off. It was like, that first 7 weeks is kind of tough, your first report card, conferences. But the only thing that's significantly different in years past this calendar is that we do have an embedded conference day in October. So we won't have Columbus Day for teachers, but they'll have a conference day at the elementary level that will give teachers an opportunity to have parents come to school without having to have a sub in their room, and they're somewhere else, like in a closet, having a parent-teacher conference. So that was very much, the elementary people were all for that. It will also be a conference day in a different fashion. It will look differently in the secondary. The secondary is a different animal, but it will still be an effective parent communication day. Any questions? So basically students will start on the 9th, and we get out before Memorial Day. And the second calendar, year after next, it mimics it by that 1 day for the most part, just because it continues a day.
I recommend the approval of these calendars, and certainly encourage any questions the board may have or comments.
All right, you've heard the superintendent's recommendation. The board approved the calendars as submitted. Do I hear a motion?
So,
Second? Any questions or discussions? All right, all in favor?
aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
I always feel like when the school calendar committee has been successful, we ought to send them to work on Middle East peace. They're about equally difficult and controversial, so good job, Kim, and Who else in the room served on the calendar committee? Okay, terrific, thank you all.
Kim,
It was
your
a
cell
very calm group.
phone, your cell phone's going on the website.
That's okay. Good one. Bet that didn't work out.
Next item on the agenda is the addition of a course at the high school level in our career tech program. I'd like to ask Mike Donaldson to explain the need for that program.
I'm going to do that, I'm not here, that's okay.
That's fine.
The course is a senior pathway project course. It's a career tech education course that has been adopted by the State Department of Education. And the board actually adopted several of these a few months ago. I think there's actually one for each program area, for architect and design, for business, for marketing. And what the courses are designed to do, obviously they're typically for seniors. They're for students who have taken at least 2 career tech courses previously. And it will allow them to work independently under a coordinating teacher's guidance. And they can also do these senior pathway projects in cooperation with the Cooperative Education Program. So it will look like an internship and a project. I'll give you an example. Say for architecture and design, their project may be to take a regular restroom, redesign this as a handicap restroom, and you know, with the drawings and all that, and that would be the project phase of that. But inadvertently, I had left off one of those a few months ago, and that was for our IT program, our information technology, and that is what this one is. It's the Senior Pathway Project for Information Technology, and we do have at least one student interested in doing that next semester, and I think we have a couple of students already taking advantage of these.
I recommend approval of this additional course.
You've heard the superintendent's recommendation that the board approve the senior career pathway IT course that's submitted. Do I hear a motion to approve? And second?
Second.
Any discussion, questions on that? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Just as our school system had a great year last month, so did Dr. Ty Earndall, principal at Ruby Park Elementary. Last month we recognized him and his school for attaining Blue Ribbon School status. Also recently, Dr. Earndall completed his doctoral work at Sanford, and that's certainly a milestone in anyone's career, and we congratulate him on that. And probably more important to him than congratulations is that the practice in the school system has been to add a contract supplement when someone achieves their doctoral degree, and I'm very pleased to recommend that for Dr. Earndall.
You have heard the superintendent's recommendation that the board approve the addendum to Dr. Earndall's employment contract is submitted. Do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second? Second. I'd just like to say congratulations. I know I'm proud of you. Any other discussion? All right, all in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries.
Recommend board approval of several personnel actions.
You've heard the superintendent's recommendation, that the board approve the resignations, reassignments, and employments as submitted. Do I hear a motion to approve? And second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Just briefly make some comments on the school restructuring process that we're engaged in. This kicked off a week ago last night at East Elementary, as you know, and we had about 150 people there. I thank Mark Richardson for hosting us. He had a lot going on in the school that day, the next day, and he worked us in anyway on Tuesday night, and we appreciate that. We had a great turnout. I think some really good discussion, and while that meeting was underway, we launched the online version of that process. So since then, we have had 3 additional meetings, 2 yesterday and 1 today. We've had probably approaching 200 parents, citizens that have come out for those in-person meetings. And also at this point, we've had over 2,200 people access the online survey, and about 2/3 of those have left 1 or more comments. So So we asked for feedback because we wanted it, and we got it. And that's a good thing, because I think these meetings have certainly helped me be sure that we're asking all the right questions about the three options that are out there, that we're seeing pros and cons from the point of view of employees, parents, residents. I think we're getting a fuller picture of how everyone in the community sees these three options, which then will lead to my making a recommendation on December 6th, which will be made public on that day, and then the board acting on that recommendation on December the 13th. So I've been very pleased with the level of engagement that we've gotten. The discussions have been constructive, they've been very civil. I think they're everything you would want to see in a community. In fact, if we had candidates for the superintendent's position observing all of those, I think they would walk away going, you know, that's a community that knows how to discuss topics in a civil and constructive way and eventually reach an agreement. So I'm very pleased with the way it's gone so far. I want to thank several people who helped to make it that way. All the administrators have been involved in one way or another. Whit has done a terrific job in helping prepare visuals and posting things on social media and updating the website and all the things that he does, which has been very helpful. Jane Marie's helped with a lot of the analysis and preparation of materials. Our principal facilitators have done a terrific job, and I'd like them to stand so we can thank them. In addition to these four, Meredith Hanson has also served in that role, and she's away today on a family issue. So it's been a real team effort. I'm proud of the team. They've worked really hard on this and done a great job, and I couldn't be more pleased with where we're going. So that's kind of my update. I'll be glad to respond to any questions that you might have about the process at this point.
Ready for public comment? Our last order of business tonight will be to invite public comment. We ask that you limit your comments to agenda items, that you come to the podium and state your name and address, and limit your comments to 3 minutes if possible. All right, there being no further business to come before this board, we stand adjourned.